Dynamic conversations where families and stories come in all shapes and sizes. I come from a family of 12. You may be an only child. What matters is caring, sharing, and finding ways to relate to one another. Hello, and welcome to Family Dynamic Conversations podcast. I am your host, Janice Kingsbury. Thank you so much for joining me again today. In this episode, I want to emphasize the unique story that each individual has. Some of us feel that our stories are not above anybody else's story, but definitely not below anybody else's story. They're all unique, and only we can tell our story. I think most people just want to be understood. No one knows every situation and lifetime experience. So we have to approach, I believe, everyone with the same kindness and compassion that we would have for ourselves. I will let him tell his story, but I couldn't believe how much I could relate to this story and his experience. He told me one day he'd write a book about it, and I, for one, am looking forward to that day. Please do that. For those of you watching, I will be referring to my notes. I will try and edit that out, but just bear with me. There's a lot to cover, and I have a lot of questions. And now a word from our sponsors. Wait, I'm the sponsor. Okay. Please take the time to think about if there's someone that you know that can relate to these stories and these podcasts. Please give it a thumbs up. Please share it. You never know who's listening, and anyone that can be helped by any stories or experiences that we have witnessed and been a part of. If you help one person, it's a wonderful thing. So thank you for taking the time to do that. Okay, back to the show. Welcome, Thomas Verdin-Marshall. Thank you so much for being with me. How are you today, Thomas?
Pretty good. Thank you for having me, honestly. Super excited. I listened to your first podcast and when it first came out and then all the other ones, and I'm like super stoked just to be here, honestly.
It's so awesome to hear. Thank
Oh
you.
yeah.
All right, let's get the ball rolling. How many in your family? What number are you? And if you don't mind sharing where you grew up.
So yeah, my family tree looks a little weird. I have my parents, obviously my biological parents, and then they divorced when I was young. But before they divorced, they had both me and my brother. And then my dad remarried and then had my two sisters. And then I have quite a few step siblings just from like my step parents, like previous marriages, stuff like that.
Oh,
So
right.
my family tree is kind of all over the place, but honestly, I don't think I'd change it for the world.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, extended family is amazing how the branches keep reaching out.
Oh
And
yeah.
it's wonderful, I think.
Yeah.
So do you feel like, first of all, your brother, you
Uh-huh.
have similar traits? Are you quite different? Are you both introverted or extroverted? What are the similarities and differences, first with your brother and then that you've noticed with your other siblings?
Yeah, so my brother, he's my younger brother. Like, growing up, I'd like to say like we were pretty similar. But as we grew older, like grew into our personalities and what have you, I'm definitely a little bit more like introverted unless I'm with people that I know.
Okay.
Whereas my brother, he's super extroverted. He makes friends all the time with random strangers. Dude, how do you do that? That's so weird. I'm like, how do you just walk up to a stranger and become friends with them? It's nuts. But honestly, kudos to him. I don't know if I could do that. And then with my sisters, I have, my two younger sisters. They're the youngest out of the four of us. I'm probably more similar to my sister Viviana. She's the second youngest. And my brother's actually probably more similar to Clara, which is my youngest sister. So it's
Interesting.
kind of weird how it works.
Yeah.
We all have like our matching pair or what have you. It's pretty
Right,
neat.
right. And are you more similar to your dad or have the similar traits of your dad or your mom?
So honestly, I would like to say like I am a good, healthy mix of the both of them.
Good.
But if I really had to pick, I'd probably say my mom, just because I've lived with her for most of my life, and then that's just where I get a lot of my traits from, is just spending time with her.
Interesting. Well, that's good to know. I think it's all an interesting dynamic. So
Oh yeah,
love hearing about it. Thank you for sharing that.
yeah.
And where did you grow up?
So I grew up kind of like in a few different spots. I grew up primarily in North Carolina up until I
Oh,
was 15. My parents were in the military, so we were in Fort Bragg. But we kind of like moved 3 times
Yeah.
within North Carolina, just to different cities. When I was 15, we were literally on the road in New York City for my 15th birthday,
Wow.
moving to California. So we drove from North Carolina up to New York, down to Colorado to visit some family, and then to LA. But after that, we moved to Monterey, California. So that's about 5, 6 hours north of like Los Angeles. And that was just for military as well. And then after that, I graduated high school and then moved down here to Southern California for school. But I've been
Okay.
here since.
Nice. So you got a nice taste of the different coasts
Oh, yeah.
and, and different cultures.
Oh yeah, totally. It was a total culture shock coming from
That,
North Carolina here. I was like, what the heck? It's like, oh my gosh. To this day, I'm like, dude, there's some things I just don't get, especially about Southern California. Everything's so busy around here.
oh,
But honestly, I do have to appreciate the one big difference I like about the West Coast is there's so much variety in the different types of food.
oh,
Whereas on the East Coast, a lot of the same. But
interesting.
honestly, they both have their pros and cons.
Sure, sure. What did you like about North Carolina?
So for me, it was honestly the weather. Like
Yeah.
I absolutely loved the fact that there was actual seasons over there instead of over here in California where you have spring and then you have summer and like that's kind of it.
Yes, pretty
Um,
much.
yeah. Like, in the wintertime it would snow. Like we'd like go out, like make a little snowman here or there.
Yeah,
It wasn't like crazy snow like you'd get like, like in the Northwest or just anywhere like that.
right.
But like in the fall, all the leaves would change color. You get a bundle up in a cute little jacket or something. Um, but yeah, like and then during the summertime, you have like thunderstorms, like at least once a week.
Ah,
Yeah, so
we've
it's like,
talked about that. Oh my
oh yeah,
gosh.
yeah, I miss
It's
it
the
so much.
best. Yeah. My husband's in Missouri right now and he sent a little video of the rain and I'm like,
Oh,
"Ah,
nice.
is there thunder?"
I know, right? It's like, please just record it for me.
Yeah,
I'll play it
which he
as I
has
go to
done in the
sleep.
past. That's right. I'll just put it on a loop,
Oh yeah,
listen to it. It's the best.
absolutely.
I have done that, by the way. When we did have a
Uh-huh.
thunderstorm this last spring, I just put the iPad out by the
That's
window.
so
I get that thunder on there
yeah.
for me.
It's so fun. Like sometimes, like when I can't sleep, I'll just go on YouTube and I'll just look up thunderstorms
Me
noises and I'll
too.
just put that on. Like it's just so relaxing for
It
me.
is. Lulls me to
Oh yeah,
sleep. I don't
yeah.
care if it's a crack. I just want to.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's funny. Well, I love that we have that in common.
Oh yeah.
I do want to ask our listeners if you don't mind putting in the comments. I know it's hard sometimes for people to just take the time and stop and put a comment down there, but I would love to know who's listening, how many siblings they have in your family, and are you different or similar to those siblings? Thank you for doing that. Okay. When we finally decided to schedule this recording, I said to you it would be helpful if I knew a little bit of information of what you were going to talk about. I had no idea your situation, how you grew up, and I was shocked as I'm making my little notes how much this experience of yours is something that happened to me also. I want to tell the listeners that I will probably have to compose myself a few times during this episode, but it's an interesting story and it's a unique story, and I really appreciate you wanting to share it. As my daughter put it, she said, talking about a lot of different podcast topics and what we could talk about. Before I started this, she said, Mom, this sounds like it could be very therapeutic for you. Thinking she was right. Yeah. So every family has their ups and downs, and I want you to feel free to talk about the fun times that you
Mhm.
had and the wonderful experiences you had. But I know you're here to talk about a more challenging time and the struggle that you kind of had growing up and now dealing with in your adult life. It's not an easy topic, and I thank you for being here today with me. Would you just like to start by telling me the situation you grew up in?
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
So when I was roughly 5, my parents divorced. There was like a lot of fighting leading up to that, lots of tension. As a little kid, you don't really like playing with your toys the whole time, but you remember like parents fighting and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
then I remember my dad just sat me down. If I remember right, it was like on the deck, the back deck of our house, and my parents talked to me and they were like, "Hey, we're like not going to be living together. We're separating." I had no idea what that meant as a
Yeah.
little 5-year-old. I was like, okay, like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
But growing up, there was a whole lot of every other weekend we'd go visit my dad. Every other holiday, we would do like one Christmas with mom, one Christmas with dad. There's just like a whole lot of it, a whole lot of that kind of stuff. With my dad remarrying, with my mom finishing school as well. She was a single mom, raising two boys. I like to say we were kind of well behaved, but I can't vouch for that too much.
Yeah.
But she got herself through school. She was working full time, raising two boys.
Wow.
My dad was still in the Navy at the time. Honestly, like it was weird. Like my brother and I were like, okay, like this is like normal. Like this is 5-year-old me is like, okay, like this happens. Like this is like
Yeah.
totally like chill. And then like as you meet more people, you're kind of okay, like that, like it happens, but it's not like super like common. It's a lot of my friends like I've talked to, like their parents have remained married for like, their whole lives. It's like
Yeah.
not to say I'm jealous, but I'm like, so this is like what it would look like. It's not a jealousy thing. It's more of I had a different upbringing. I wonder what it would look like.
Yes. I am divorced and I have a son and a daughter. I have to say it was the most heart-wrenching experience that I ever experienced in my life. And after I came to that most difficult decision, there wasn't a day that passed, an hour that passed, that I didn't think about how this was going to affect my children and their entire life. But it was a decision I had to make because it was not a healthy situation
Hmm.
for anybody. And so I know how people come to that decision, but I don't think we realize as parents, I guess we can't dwell on it too much about what that's going to do to our poor children. No one can predict the future, and no one can understand how each individual child will react to whatever that situation is. The divorce as a perspective of a child's perspective is excruciating for me to think about, but I think about it a lot and I still think about it. So, what was for you? What was the hardest thing for you to process with all of that?
I think when it like it's probably one of those things that like I still quote unquote like process.
Yep.
It's the fact that like it's me reminding myself is like I don't have to like choose sides.
Okay.
Like when I was little, like I kind of like had the feeling that I had to choose between my mom and my dad. Is like, like one of them's living over here, one of them's living over there. Like there's only one of me. I can't like have two of me go each one live with each of my parents.
Right.
So it always felt like, I had to decide. Either I pick my mom, my dad will be upset, or I pick my dad and my mom will be upset. I'm sure
Yeah.
that wasn't the case. As, little kid me, I thought like that was the case.
Yeah.
How do I make the most amount of people happy?
Ah,
And my parents, I remember them telling me a few times, hey, no matter what you choose, we'll support your decision. But I could also tell, please choose me, but like not like in a bad way.
right,
It's
right, right.
like I'm their child. Like I totally expect like they would want to see me. They would want to be with me. So it was
Yeah.
like so much pressure to put on like little 7-year-old Thomas.
Mm,
And my
mm,
brother was, let's see, he's about like 5 if I'm 7.
yeah,
So like it was like a lot of pressure for the two of us. So I think that's like what brought us so close together as well.
I'm sure.
It's just the fact that like we to this day, like I mean, my brother and I still talk about like what the heck did like that was such like a wild situation we grew up in.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but like it was how do I put it? Like I don't regret it. Like as a kid, like I don't wish I could change it because it made me who I am today.
Mm,
And it made me be able to like be here and like share my story and like hopefully somebody out there is watching right now. Like, okay, like this is okay to like feel this way. Like
yeah,
it's a normal thing.
that's right. And I made the decision, good or bad, doesn't matter. I've tried to forgive myself about this for many years. I'm 63. I'm still dealing with it, just like you said. But I decided to move out of state, and I brought my daughter with me, and my son decided to stay with his dad. So, as I talked to my kids about this, who are now adults, I'm sure it was difficult, but they have been very delicate and gentle with me about how they felt during that situation. But did your parents stay close in vicinity, or because your dad was still in the Navy, did he move away?
Yeah, so I'd say for the first few years, they were like relatively close vicinity.
Okay.
This is like years and years ago. I don't remember too well.
Yeah.
I'm sure if my family's watching, well, actually, this is not how it went down. I'm just trying to remember.
Trust me,
Um,
I know.
but if I remember correctly, my dad was relatively in the area when they first divorced. So I would go see him just whenever. I'm sure it's the same here, but after a divorce, you have court orders for visitation.
Right.
And the one that we stuck with for the longest time, at least I remember, is every other weekend was with my dad, and same with holidays. Holidays would alternate. So Christmas and New Year's with my mom, and then the next year it'd be with my dad.
Yeah.
Um, so that's what I remember being the thing for the majority of the time. But after that, my dad moved to Florida, if I remember correctly. And then I have to like do kudos to him because
Yeah.
like every other weekend he would drive up to North Carolina,
Wow.
and he'd like rent a hotel, and we would just stay there like for the weekend. And then he
Nice.
would take us to school, and then he'd drive back down to Florida.
That's
So
great.
definitely kudos to him. And then one other thing I remember is during the summers, we would usually just spend the summers with my dad. So throughout the school year, we were with my mom on all the weekdays and what have you. And then during the summer, if I remember correctly, it was like from Father's Day until like a couple weeks before school started. That's what the visitation was, if I remember correctly. That's when
Okay.
we would, be in Florida for like the summer, or we would drive to New Mexico to visit my dad's side of the family.
Nice.
So it was always really fun just doing all that. And my brother, he always tagged along, so it was neat. My brother and I really grew close through all of that.
That's great. So, did you say you and your brother would talk about how you were feeling and what you were going through, or did you pretty much keep that to yourself? I know you were young, so your
Yeah.
brother was what, 3 or you were
Yes.
5?
So my brother is 2 years, 9 months younger than me.
Gosh.
We did the math and we actually worked it down to the second one time, how much older I am than him. Like that's just stupid brother things that we do.
Love it. Love it.
um, but so how do I put it? We didn't really talk about it too much until we were older, probably like until we were both in high school. I was a senior and he was a freshman. I was getting ready to leave for college. And that's
Mm.
when we kind of started talking about it. What is the situation we're in? This is like so nuts. And
Yeah.
I think that's where it all started, is because, like me getting ready to leave for college, my brother was, I don't know if I can do this by myself.
Yeah.
Dude, you've been there for me. And I was like, look, I'm going to college in Pomona. It's like, now at that time we were up in Monterey.
Okay.
That's so far away. It's like, I don't know if I can do it.
Scary.
And
Yeah.
then when I was in college, like COVID hit, it was 2020. It was my
Oh,
freshman year, my second
gosh.
semester of freshman year. So I moved home. I think my brother was there as well. And then he just, one summer after that, he was, I can't do it in California anymore. Honestly, you'd have to ask him the
You
exact
sure?
reasons.
Yeah.
But he decided to stay with my dad after that summer, visiting my dad. So ever since then, he's been living with my dad. Well, I guess not right now. He's in college as well.
Yeah.
He's going to Texas A&M, so he's out there
Wow.
by himself. My dad's over in Florida. He's in Texas all by himself. I don't know how he does it, but kudos to my brother.
Right? Right.
Yeah.
Good for both of you. I think
Oh yeah.
that's speaks a lot to self-growth,
Oh
confidence,
yeah.
courage. That's
Totally.
amazing. You said your parents remarried. How did you feel about that?
So my dad has remarried twice since like my parents initially divorced. He remarried once and then had like my two sisters, Viviana and Clara. And then it was a few years after that they divorced, and then my dad was single again, and then he met Darcy, my current stepmom. Hopefully they don't plan on having any kids. They're like, it'd be crazy if they have a kid. I'm like over here like 23, but like I could be your dad. But I don't think they're going to. Darcy already has some kids of her own from a
Oh,
previous marriage. She has 3 kids. They're all older than me. They're like super.
oh,
I look at them like as role models. I'm like, okay, this is
nice.
like what to expect when I get older.
Aw,
So that's on my dad's side, and then on my mom's side, she never remarried until my current stepdad. She dated a few times, and who are these guys you're bringing? Are they just really good friends? What's going on?
Yeah,
Like I
that's
had
tough.
no idea what dating was when I was like a kid. And I was like,
It's not.
okay, so I'm seeing this guy a lot. It's like
Yeah,
very interesting. He seems
right.
cool. He brings me toys. Cool. He can stick around. Um, and
Nice.
then my mom remarried, and then my stepdad has a daughter from a previous marriage as well, and she's older than me by I think about 3 years, somewhere around there.
Okay.
But my mom and stepdad have actually known each other for like years. They've been like
Oh,
they were work friends at first, from what I remember.
okay.
Um, so it was really interesting. Like I grew up with their daughter, I
Nice.
guess my stepsister now. So it's really interesting how it all shook out in the end.
Yeah. And so you've told me what happened, but how are you feeling when this was happening?
Yeah. Oh yes. Sorry.
That's
um,
okay. That's
so
all
for
good.
the feeling part, honestly, like I said, like, at that point in my life, okay, like, this is a normal thing that happens to kids. They see their parents remarry. They see their parents, get divorced. I thought divorce was like a totally, oh yeah, this just happens sometimes. This is totally normal. It just means you haven't found the right person, et
Okay.
cetera, et cetera. I was like,
Okay.
okay, that's fine. My dad, his first wedding, I wasn't there. I think I was with my mom, but it was a smaller wedding from what I recall. I don't think too much family was there. It's kind of elopement, if I'm using that word correctly.
Yeah.
And then my dad's second marriage, it was another small wedding. It just had they just invited all of their kids. My dad invited like a couple of his siblings, my aunts and uncles,
Oh, okay.
but it was like super small. Literally, they just did it in the front yard of the house. And then took a few pictures, had some cake and stuff, and then we all jumped in the pool. It was pretty neat. There's like a little picture of it, like of us like all dressed up jumping into a pool. It's like,
Oh,
yeah, it's really
fun.
cool. And then my mom, for when she remarried, I was trying to think, I was probably around 12-ish,
Oh,
that
okay.
age. So I thought I was like, okay, this is like normal. My mom's getting remarried. Cool
Yeah.
beans.
Yeah.
I remember my stepdad asking me if he can marry my mom, like asking the
Aw.
kids first. And I was, yeah, why not? I was like, all right, you have to keep this secret. It was, I'm going to ask her later. I'm like, okay, I'll keep the secret. Um,
Aw.
but yeah, so they remarried. I have to say, like, their wedding was like super cool. As a kid, that was the first wedding I ever remember going to. It was my mom's
Oh,
wedding.
yeah.
And I was like, wow, this is what weddings are. This is sick. This is so
Yeah.
cool. I can't wait for mine. But yeah, it was
Awesome.
that wedding. I remember seeing a lot of family. It was just a lot of fun. Overall, with like the general situation of it, like I
Yeah.
honestly didn't have any thoughts.
Okay.
Like I wish I could say like, oh, I felt happy, I felt sad, I felt like whatever. It's like,
No.
I was, 12-year-old, trying to do like getting in trouble at school for not showing my work on math homework. It's like I didn't really like have a whole lot of thoughts when it came to like my parents' groups.
Okay.
It was very much like they're adults, I'm not. Like they know what's best. All I can do is like, yeah, yippee. Um, but like my parents, like I have to say, they always did seek my opinion.
Wow.
Like so
That's
they always
great.
like made sure like that I was happy with what they were doing.
Mm.
But at the end of the day, like saying like I don't care sounds bad, but like at the end of the day, like whatever they did, they're adults. Like I was a little kid, like I
Yeah.
didn't really pay any mind to it.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that they respected the idea of going to you and talking to you about it.
Yeah.
I'm sure some parents never talked to their kids about it and didn't care what their kids thought. So it's nice to know that your parents, and I think that probably speaks to why you are you and are fun to be around, but you're very respectful. I think that's from that upbringing of, listen, this is what's happening. How are you doing? And if you're okay. And I'm sure as a parent, I, for me, it was always, oh my God, I hope my kid doesn't, get too attached to this person that I'm seeing right
Yeah.
now, or that they think they're a jerk or whatever it was. But I didn't expect them to understand it all completely.
hmm
But I also wanted them to know that this is what's happening and we'll all be fine and we'll take care of each other kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
But it's hard to know what your child is thinking or feeling without asking them.
Oh yeah.
So now you said you had aunts and uncles. Were they around that you could talk to them, or this just wasn't something that you would sit down and talk about?
So honestly, that was not the case ever really. I wish I could say that was true, but at the time it was the only people from my entire family that were living in North Carolina was my mom, my dad, and my brother and I.
Okay.
We were just kind of isolated. All of the family on my mom's side was living here in California, and then all the family on my dad's side was living in New Mexico. So
Okay.
it was kind of just my brother and I just grew to lean on each other. We had a few good friends growing up throughout school, but other than that, it was just my brother and I. Whenever things got hard, when we weren't getting on each other's nerves as brothers do, we were,
Yeah.
inseparable. My mom would dress us up in like matching outfits, and we hated it. But like, like I'm sure like secretly, like looking back at pictures, we're like, okay, that was kind of cool. It's like we like that. Um, but yeah, like when it
Nice.
came to like sharing like difficulties and stuff like that, there wasn't like anybody like concrete to go to. Like I'm positive, like my parents told me, like, hey, you can always come to us if you have any problems, if you're ever
Yeah.
feeling which way.
Okay.
But like part of me, like internalizing it, I was okay, like if I go to this parent talking smack
Oh,
about this other parent, that's gonna burn a bridge. I didn't want to do that as a kid. I didn't want to make them enemies with each other. I didn't necessarily want to bring them back together to remarry or whatever. I knew
okay.
that was not the case.
Okay.
But I also didn't want them to be, fighting all the time still, just create a bad environment for my brother and I.
Yeah.
So honestly, it was just my brother and I. We would just share like when things got hard, but in reality, like we didn't even start sharing when things got hard until we were like older in high school. It's just
Yeah.
like we didn't know that things were hard. We just thought this was like, business as usual.
Right. Right. Yeah. I'm sure many kids think that.
Yeah.
So, in the book that you're going to write, that I'm
Mhm.
going to read, what do you think the most important message is going to be to convey to people when you write the book?
Yeah, so the book that I plan on writing, I haven't even like
That's
as
okay.
far as I've gotten is like a general outline of the chapters I want.
Nice. That's
But what I want the book to be for is primarily just for the kids of divorce.
yeah.
I desperately need them to know it's like, hey, this is not your fault. It is okay that you feel the way you do. You don't have to pick sides. I wish it could be the case for everybody. I know not everybody's family dynamic is perfect.
Right.
And that's totally fine. It happens. It's the reason why some people are born in different states. There's just some things you can't control about reality. It's a decision your parents made. It's not a decision that was, if anything, it was influenced you for the good. They more than likely did it to protect you, to make sure that you have, parents that can take care of you without being at each other's throats or anything like that. That's primarily what I want to put out there is little kid, you're okay. You're,
Nice.
you're okay. This is normal. You'll be all right.
Good. That's so, so important.
Yeah.
And I could see that first chapter of you just talking to that 5-year-old and that 2.5-year-old.
Yeah.
Go, look, this is scary as, but you're going to get through it.
Mhm.
And your parents love you, and
Oh yeah.
hopefully that can be conveyed. I mean, that's the scary part, that it is all too common and all too scary for children. I don't care how old you are, but that has to be conveyed, that
Yeah.
it wasn't your fault, it wasn't your choice, nothing you did caused this to happen,
Yeah. Like
especially at those young ages.
yeah. And another thing I have to say is, so my parents when they divorced, it wasn't. You hear horror stories of like, oh my gosh, it was like always super abusive. Like I as
Mm,
a kid got hit, stuff like this.
yeah.
I can't say that ever happened to me, and I feel blessed for that.
Yes.
But it's also important to know, like, hey, there are people in that situation.
Hmm.
And I'm sure it sucks. There's no like easy way to say it, but like it sucks. I just want to be able to. I wish I could like go to that kid and be like, look, like it's difficult right now. Like it is. Even me, like who didn't have it like necessarily as hard. Um,
Hmm.
like it's difficult. It's a weird thing to go through like as a kid. It's like what
Yeah.
do you mean my parents aren't together anymore? Like you mean I had to split time between them? You mean I'm not gonna see one of my parents anymore?
Yeah.
It's so weird as a kid.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
I just wish I could like, go to all the little kids in the world that have divorced parents and you know what? It's okay. It's not
Yeah.
your fault. You'll get through this. You just have to stick through it. If you have siblings, lean on them. But yeah, you'll get through it.
Yeah, that's an amazing message. I did have a little thing in here about advice to kids, so there you go. You hit that note really well.
Right on.
Thank you for that. So, on a more positive note, you are
Hmm.
engaged to be married. That's so
Oh yeah.
exciting. I'm so happy for you.
Oh yeah, we just finished the invites today.
Oh, exciting.
Oh
Oh my
yeah.
gosh. How long did you guys date before deciding to get married?
Honestly, like, I never would have. Growing up, I totally thought dating for a couple years before you got married was the norm. Like, I'm never ever gonna get married unless I date that person for like at least a year and a half. I
Okay.
think we were dating for 5, 6 months before we got engaged. It's yeah, it's very much just one of those when you know, like you just know. She just makes me so happy. Like I feel so
That's
at peace whenever like I'm with her. Like she's so great. So like shout out Hattie, like best
Yay,
fiance
Eddie.
ever. Can't wait till she's my wife.
Nice.
But honestly, like yeah, I'm super excited.
And when you guys were dating, did you feel it necessary to talk about it? Just out of curiosity, did you
Uh-huh.
talk to
Hattie, like her,
Hattie?
yeah.
Hattie, and did you guys talk about the divorce and the experience, or just
Oh
no?
yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually one of the things where like we connected on. Like her parents are divorced as well.
Okay.
So like it was very much like, oh shoot, like that happened to you too. Okay, like I can relate. Like I understand like where you're coming from.
Yeah.
And it's like helped a lot like whenever like I get in my own head or she gets into her own head, I'm like, hey, this is more than likely like from our past. It's like
Yes.
this is old habits that we have as little kids
Right.
trying to appease one parent or the others. Hey,
Yeah.
you don't need to appease me. I'm here for you. I'm gonna love you no matter what, no matter
That's
what you decide.
fantastic.
That's what I'm here for.
I love it.
So it's made it super helpful. That's why I said I wouldn't change my past for the world. It's made me be able to connect with her and her connect with me. We have that in common.
That's wonderful. Do you think that because of what happened, you'll have any trust issues or conflict issues? Did you guys talk about that stuff at all?
Yeah, so I think honestly, it's the opposite. I think because of what has happened, we have come to the agreement, hey, we 100% don't want this to happen to like our kids. Not to say, not to like bash on the parents who have been
Right.
divorced. It's like just as a kid, I know what it was like. I survived. It turned out fine.
Yep.
I'm still happy for my parents for the decision they made. Again, wouldn't change it for the past, but at the same time, I don't want it to happen. I don't want to put more kids through that. Like
Yeah.
as how do I put it? As easy as it might, as tame and calm as that divorce might be, it's still weird having your parents not live together, not express love to one another.
Yeah.
So from the get-go, we were like, hey, if we get married, divorce is not even a word we're gonna say to each other. This is not an option.
Wow. That's very cool.
Oh
Well,
yeah.
kudos to both of you.
Thank you, thank you.
Have you already, or did you consider going to a professional and a therapist and just kind of talking about these experiences? Or did you just feel, I got this under control and you talked to Hattie about it, so you feel like this is going to be fine?
Yeah, so when I was actually younger, my parents got a little family counselor,
Okay.
just because there's a lot of fighting between my brother and I, between us and my mom, between us and my dad. I think it was a court that kind of said, "Hey, go to a family counselor."
Oh,
After my parents had divorced, so we all went. It was really weird. Like as a kid, I didn't know like
yeah.
what she was there for. Like
Okay.
I was, my parents told me, "Yeah, just talk to her, like, tell her how you feel and stuff." I was like, what? Okay. I didn't know how as a kid. I had no idea how to be
Ah,
open about that.
yeah.
So I like to think I've developed some good coping habits. I'm sure I have some bad ones in there somewhere. But like honestly, seeking professional help probably would be a good thing. Like I've thought about it. I just, like haven't really pulled the trigger on it yet just because like I feel like I'm in a good spot. Like I've come to terms with
Mm,
everything in my past. It's not like skeletons in the closet type deal where like I'm
cool.
like dealing with it. Like I had to say like talking with my brother about it. And just talking to him, hey, like what we went through was kind of like weird and messed up, right? And he's like, yeah, it totally was. Um, so
Yep.
like just talking with my brother about like the whole situation, like just like was able to like validate. Like I think it helps with him
Good.
to like just validate our feelings, like make sure like
Yeah.
like get it off of our chests and stuff like that. But probably one day I'd probably seek professional help just to make sure like that I'm all good to go.
Right. I just
But yeah,
find that I still have triggers in my
yeah,
life and it doesn't surface and I don't recognize it until suddenly it slaps me in the face and go,
hmm
whoa, just think about what's happening,
yeah,
why this is feeling is coming up right now. and then try to not react, but recognize and then move forward from that. So I'm glad you're at least open to it.
Yeah. Oh
That's
yeah.
huge.
Totally am. Like I'm not like I think like the whole like stigma if you go to therapy like you're weak because
Yeah.
like I honestly think it's really important to talk to like others about like how you're feeling. Like maybe like it doesn't have to be a
Hmm.
professional therapist, but like talk to somebody about like how you're feeling. Like whether it's
Yeah.
like a sibling, your parents, really good friend, like a close friend,
Yeah.
just stuff like that. I feel like is super important for all of us, not just for like mental
Yeah.
health, but just getting through your everyday is making sure
Right.
that you're coping with your past all right.
Yeah. Yeah. For anybody listening, please reach out to someone like Thomas so eloquently said. Doesn't have to be a professional therapist, but to suppress some of this stuff can only make it worse, and it will manifest itself in other things. And I've found that through my life of either stomach issues or neck aches or headaches. I just feel the more I learn about myself and how I process stuff, this should be talked about. So
Oh yeah, totally.
please, anyone listening, please find and seek that help. There's people out there ready to listen. Comment to me. We'll talk. It's all good.
Yeah.
So what were the more positive influences you had in your life? What comes to mind, whether it be in school or out of school with family members? What influenced you to be more positive?
So honestly, like it was how do I put it? Like it was both my parents, honestly. Like they just taught me, hey, life gets hard, it gets difficult, but as long as you stay positive, you keep working for what you want, things will turn out in the end. But I also have to say like, there's a lot of other factors. I had a lot of really good friends who were like just as like driven that were like, hey, when things get hard, just keep going. I was in the Boy Scouts for the longest time. That helped a lot. Is when things got difficult, I always, you know what? I have a camping trip to look forward to.
Nice.
I have like all these friends. I remember it was Tuesday nights, if I remember correctly. All get together and we would like hang out. I'd love to say like we were being productive, but like it really felt Boy Scouts was just like, get little badges for like arts and crafts and stuff like that. We goofed around so much.
That's great.
But like finding little like clubs that like throughout my life that like really got me through it, or not like I say like got me through it. Like, I had like such a terrible like childhood,
No.
but like it made me who I am today.
Right.
It like was a good way for me to like vent and express myself and to be able to do things that I enjoy. And then later on, like it was like media that I would consume.
Hmm.
Believe it or not, like when Ted Lasso came out,
Oh,
like highly recommend that. Like I was, you
yes.
know what, like I feel like I am like kind of Ted Lasso and like that whole show. It's like I
Nice.
feel like my parents weren't like my whole childhood wasn't like peachy keen, like it wasn't like perfect.
Yeah.
Like my childhood was like it was a little weird.
Yeah.
But like I like to think like like I deal with it through like humor, through like goofing off. So like that's kind of maybe who I am. But like I also recognize at the same time what happened to me in the past was like kind of weird. So.
That's inspiring because I too found Ted Lasso to be, first of all, hilarious to
Oh,
watch.
oh my gosh, like all of the jokes were like right up my alley. Every time he would make a joke, all of my family, that's the joke Thomas would make. He would love that kind of joke. I was like, you have no idea. Like, I am loving this show.
So much.
Oh yeah.
And with a great idea of inspiration and just to believe. I mean, that's
Hmm.
seems so trivial sometimes that people think just the word believe doesn't really do much for anybody. But when there's I think in most practical moments, the
Hmm.
idea of believing I can get up this morning, believing that I'm going to have a good day, believing that I get to see my grandchildren, believing that I love my kids and the kids love me and I'm going to do this silly podcast and see what happens,
Heck yeah.
you got to just believe that there's something out there every day. And I think that's a huge message for everybody.
Oh yeah, totally. For me, it always starts with when things are going bad, not going bad already, but when I have a feeling, okay, this is going to be a bad situation, this is going to be a bad day, I always tell myself, is well, it doesn't have to be. There's always a silver lining to everything. Through like Army ROTC, through our resiliency training, we were taught always hunt the good stuff.
Oh,
No matter what kind of situation you're in,
wow.
there is always something good to see. Like there's always something good that's happening. It
Yeah.
could be something super small, but like there's good in life. There's good everywhere. So like that's one of those like other like big takeaways that I have like just from like growing up. This happened like just a few years ago, like where I learned that.
You're still
Like
growing up.
I'm 23. I'm still growing up. um, but like it's like
That's right.
just hunt the good stuff. Like that's like one of those main messages is like that I wish I could tell everybody is like life sucks sometimes. Like it's gonna throw all kinds of stuff at you, but you know what?
That's,
It's also gonna throw the good things here and there. You just have to be able to like have the eyes for them. You have to look for them.
that's true. Very true.
Oh yeah.
Now, before we move on to a different topic, the most important message that I had for my children was that they were extremely loved. I mean, extremely loved. And by each parent, and pretty much by all the family members on my side and the family members on their father's side. They were not to blame for any of this, and nothing they did brought the decision on for the divorce. I've made it my life's mission to make sure that they were told that those children, my children, were the best thing that ever happened to me in my life. And I tell them often that I love them into infinity. And that all started because as kids, I would say, I love you. And they would say, I love you. And I say, no, I love you more. And they go, no, I love you the most. And I'd say, well, I love you into infinity. And then I'd run away before they could say anything else. So, is there any other message before we move on that you want to
Honest,
convey?
it's kind of like along those same lines. Is just if I could like put out a message to all the kids, hey, things are weird. Like it's not normal. Like well, like I guess like statistically is normalized. Like divorce is like a common thing.
Yeah.
Um, but like it's not your fault. Like it is 100% not your fault. Like your parents probably adore you. They'd probably put their lives down for you. And like you have a support system. If you have friends, if you have other family members, like that means that there are people for you. There are people there for you. So you're not alone. You're never alone. It might feel like you are. It might feel like you have the world tearing you in multiple pieces, trying to be multiple places, trying to be different people for different people. But at the same time, like the best thing is just to be yourself. Like enjoy the things that you enjoy. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Just be yourself. You don't have to be anybody for anybody.
And there's no way to prepare for this. There
Not
is
at
no
all.
way for a parent to prepare for this, for a child to prepare for this. It's a wing and a prayer, and just again, believe in yourself and that you will get through it.
Oh yeah.
So you had mentioned that you have a lot of military in your life,
Oh
and
yeah.
I have a lot of military in my life. My mother and father were in the Navy. My mom was a naval nurse. My dad was a test pilot for the Navy.
Oh wow.
Yeah, my brother enlisted in the Army, and I have two brother-in-laws who were in the Army. Both, I think, believe had to experience Vietnam. And then I have a nephew who is lieutenant commander in Guam as a medical doctor. So it's very big and strong in our family. My son wanted to go into the Air Force, but he's found through the tests that he was slightly colorblind. And
Oh
so,
no.
yeah, he can't be
Yeah.
accepted into the Air Force with that. But still a lot of respect for that. What made you choose to go into the military?
So honestly, it was a lot of a few different factors, but it was primarily just where I grew up in North Carolina. I grew up primarily in Fayetteville. It's a big military community. If nobody knows, one of the largest military bases in the nation, if not, I think the largest, is Fort Bragg, now
Oh,
Fort Liberty.
okay.
Everything around there revolved around like, support our troops. Every car dealership had a little sign,
Oh,
support our troops.
nice.
It was always really neat. And then honestly, just seeing what the military did for my parents. My mom was first generation. She became a U.S. citizen through the military.
Oh,
Um,
that's
so
cool.
she joined the Navy. She had nothing else going for her. It was either join the military or keep cleaning houses with her mom.
Mm-hmm.
And the military set her up for success.
Yeah.
She was able to work with the SEAL team, SEAL Team 1. She wasn't in SEAL Team 1. She did the supplies, all the supply and stuff
Very
for them.
cool.
Yeah. So when she tells me, what the heck? Her duty station like, in Hawaii, like just living it up. She was like the credit card holder for like the Navy. And I was like, what the heck? Like, this is such a chill job. Like, she's never stepped foot on a boat. Like, I was like, you joined the Navy. What the heck? And then
Interesting.
my dad was also in the Navy. That's how they met.
Okay.
and like just seeing him, like the Navy like set him up for success as well. He was able to do like some stuff like that he still is not allowed to tell me, like
Oh,
classified stuff. Like
yeah.
I want to do that, like that sounds cool. And then my stepdad, he was in the army. He
Gosh.
got out after 28 years. So he did like communications for the army. Also did some like sneaky kind of, he worked with the special forces kind of stuff.
Wow. Wow.
But just seeing like how the military like set them all up for success, like that's just one of those things that I will believe. Like just seeing it in person is like, you can have absolutely nothing in your life, but like give like 3-4 years to the military,
Hmm.
and like that's it, you're set. Like you can like go to school, like you'll be able to, like your school will be covered. That's what put me through my schools. My parents transferred their educational benefits to me,
Oh, it's
and that's
awesome.
what got me through school debt free. Like I'm super
Nice.
grateful for that. But like I want to provide that same kind of quality of life for my future kids.
Nice.
I'll join the military. And my parents were all right. The only thing is you're not allowed to enlist. You have to go in as an officer. So I did ROTC throughout school.
Wow.
And then
My parents talked me out of it. They were like, Janice, you are too sensitive of a soul to do
oh
this. But I was in that situation too. I'm number 11 out of 12. So
yeah,
money for college was gone
yeah,
after the first
non-existent.
4 or 5 kids. Yeah. So it's just like we got no more to give.
Yep.
And yeah, sure, I was willing to work for it, but they just said, we know you, Janice, and this is not for you. Like,
That's so funny.
okay, well, what am I going to do? But I appreciated them, and I'm glad I chose the way I chose. But you just never know. But
Yeah.
I was so enamored with the military. I just thought how amazing you included are to say, that's it. I want a better quality of life. I want to. I believe in this country and I will do what I can to service this country. And thank you very much for even thinking about that.
Well, yeah, part of it is it's not just the benefits. It's like you mentioned, I love this country. I'm sure nowadays it's kind of weird to say that. I'm sure there's people that are like, oh my gosh, I hate being in America. It's like,
Yeah.
take me to somewhere else. But at the same time, I love the fact that you can say that kind of stuff here.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love the fact that you could be the most gung ho American, yeah, red, white, and blue, but you can also be like gung ho in the complete opposite direction, and
Mm-hmm.
you're both welcome here. And
Yes.
that's the reason why I like decided to join the military. Is that's what I believe in. Like that's what I stick up for. That's what I love about this place is, the fact that we can have differing opinions and you're not going to be sent to jail for having a different opinion. I love that you can say, do whatever you want here. You can
Mm-hmm.
be whoever you want. And that's, I love that.
Yeah. As long as you're not harming anyone,
Yeah.
live
Oh,
the way you want to live. I mean, the sky's the limit on what you can do. Work hard, get your message out there, and take care of yourself and your kids. I mean,
yep.
that's the country I live in anyway. So I hope that military service is productive for you. And it sounds
Thank you.
already like you're all in, and it's
Oh,
wonderful. Thank you
yeah.
for your commitment to that.
Thank you very much.
So, when my guests are coworkers that work at
Hmm.
REI, Recreational Equipment Incorporated, I like to ask, what brought you to REI? Is there something that you went specifically for to this company, or was it just, I just need a job and I need some money?
So for me, like I am honestly so surprised at myself that I didn't think of working for REI sooner.
Yeah.
Like I worked for Target, I was a swim instructor for a little bit. I was like, like none of these jobs are like super fun and fulfilling. This isn't stuff that I'm like passionate about. Like I've always loved like the outdoors.
Hmm.
Like I told you, like I was a Boy Scout, like and I
Yeah.
love camping like so much. Like we'd go backpacking all the time. I just love being in the outdoors. Just working at REI. I think I was on Indeed or something, and I saw the store that we work at opening, like the grand opening. You know what? Sure, I'll give it a shot. Why not? We'll see what happens. And I remember I was
Yeah.
visiting family in New Mexico, and I got the little emails. Oh, you've been selected to do the first round of interviews. I'm like, what the heck? Heck yeah! I was like so nervous coming in for an interview because I was like, I want this. Like, I need this job so bad. Like, I would love to work here. And
So,
honestly, like that's why like they say like if you love what you do, you won't work a day in your life. Like
yeah.
dude, just work for a company that like you just like stand by, like just does things that you love.
Nice.
Um, like
Nice.
REI is totally that for me. Like if I could, I'd probably work for REI forever. Like I just like I love it. I'm gonna be so
Nice.
sad when I leave.
Yeah, oh my gosh. That means
Oh yeah.
you don't get me started. I'll start crying right here on the show because I won't want to think about that. So you love the outdoors. You like camping. Is there anything else that inspires you? Music,
Honest.
reading?
Oh, honestly, all of the above. Like I just
Yeah.
love experiencing the world, if that makes sense. I
Yeah.
love learning. I love seeing what like other people have to offer the world. That's why like people ask me like, oh, like what kind of music do you listen to? I can honestly say like I listen to a little bit of everything.
It's awesome.
If you give me a song recommendation, I will 100% listen to it and I will give it a fair and honest chance. I'll totally listen to it. Like I love
Nice.
listening, reading things that people love, just things that bring people joy. I absolutely love partaking in that. I could totally see this for you. Just of that.
Yeah.
For
Cool.
books, I have so many books. I have
What
like
kind of genres do you like, or is it off
so
whatever?
yeah, I kind of grew up on science fiction.
Okay.
So that was my go-to. I read so much science fiction growing up, but like now, like I'm trying to like branch out. But like obviously, like my bread and butter is like science fiction.
Very cool.
Like I am reading like a fantasy kind of book for the first time. It's called
Hmm.
like Stormlight Archives, or like that's the series name is the Stormlight Archives, and like the book is called Way of Kings. My fiance
Okay.
actually introduced it to me. She said it's her favorite book of all time, and I'm like,
Wow.
okay, I'll give it a shot. And she didn't tell me
Nice.
how long of a book it was before. Like I was like, dude, this book is so long.
Full. Okay.
Yes,
All right.
like it's good. I'll give her that. It's a good book so far, but like, oh my gosh, it's so big. I thought Don Quixote, I read Don Quixote for the first time, and I
Wow.
was like, I thought that book was long, but
Yeah.
oh my gosh. But yeah,
Nothing
like,
compared to this.
yeah, like I love like just books that like teach things. Like I
Mm,
have a whole bunch of books about like geography, geology, various science topics, like
nice.
writing topics, English, philosophy. Like I just love
Mm,
learning. Like that is like my biggest like hobby is just learning.
nice. Do you know Marcus Aurelius?
Oh yeah.
Okay, very
Yeah.
cool.
For like
What?
throughout college we would just I forget which class it was for. For one of my like philosophy classes or for like an argument class or something.
Huh?
We got to read some of his works and I was like this is like pretty sick. Like I like this. Like, heck yeah.
I was so surprised when my son brought that up years and years ago, probably when he was in high school or college. I
Uh-huh.
can't remember. But I just thought, wow, that's very profound stuff. So maybe I
It's
should read
like,
that
what?
stuff.
I didn't know. It's like I'm getting outdone by my kid. Like, what the heck?
Yeah. What the heck?
Oh yeah.
Somebody should have taught me better.
Oh yeah. Like,
That's so cool.
oh yeah. I'll pick up like my fiance. She still goes to school, and
Okay.
her library does like free textbooks, just like old,
Oh,
outdated textbooks. I'll just give them away and stuff. And
really?
every now and then she'll bring me one. Oh, I thought you'd find this one interesting. I'm like, I'll like
Wow.
honestly sit down. I'll like flip through it. I'm like, dude, this is interesting. Thank you.
That's
But
so
yeah.
cool. Yeah, that's nice to have access to that knowledge and books.
Oh
So
yeah.
well done, Hattie. Okay, so do you believe in ghosts?
Do I believe in ghosts? So I definitely want to believe in ghosts. Like I feel like it would like the world would be so much more interesting if I believed in ghosts. Um, like okay, let me put it this way. I don't
Yeah.
think I believe in the ooh, like I'm coming to
Okay.
haunt you, ghosts. But I also believe that there is paranormal activities. I am religious. I'm Catholic, and I do
Okay.
believe that like people that have passed on can come to us in certain forms.
Nice.
They can come to us if we like pray and we're like, please give me a sign that today's gonna be a good day.
Yeah.
And I'll see a butterfly or like something that reminds me of a family member that's passed on,
Yeah.
or a friend that's passed on. I'll see something that reminds me that if they were trying to communicate, that's exactly how they would do it. Okay,
Nice.
like that's what I believe in. Not necessarily ghosts, but like paranormal, I guess is the right word, something like that.
But that they're still among us,
Oh yeah,
that it's in an
totally.
energy form, that those important coincidences
Yeah.
are there for a reason. And it's for up to us to put any importance on it.
Yeah,
I just,
exactly.
after my mom passed away, after my dad passed away, all the time is there that weird. I was texting my sister that her birthday was going to be the next day, but I texted her and I said, So I was going to wait. I had a notification that it's your birthday tomorrow, but I was going to wait and text you tomorrow. And then the song came on that our mother loved, which was Over the Rainbow, Somewhere Over the
Mm.
Rainbow. And so I said, okay, Mom, I'll do it right now. And I texted her and she got a kick out of that. And she knows that's one of my mom's favorite songs. So it just made
I love
sense.
that. Yeah. Like
It's that kind of
that's
thing.
the kind of stuff that I believe in. It's like,
Yeah.
they'll give us signs, they'll like say, hey, this is the right decision. This isn't the right
Oh,
decision. That kind of stuff. Like that
that's
I
very
I
cool.
totally
Do you
agree with.
know the medium Tyler Henry?
I don't at all. Like I haven't done like too much research like when it comes to like mediums and stuff.
That's
Um
okay. I just stumbled upon it on Netflix and YouTube, and that's what his whole message is that whatever the energy that they had in their life is
uh-huh.
now in a better energy, and they are around us, and they'll always be around us. And it's
Yeah.
like I said, up to us to kind of go, okay, that reminds me of you. Thank you very much. I feel better, and that's all you have to take out of it,
Oh
kind of
yeah.
thing. Yeah. So he has some interesting stories.
Yeah, I'll definitely give it a shot.
So with the whole ghosty things, are you a fan of Halloween?
Oh yeah. I'm just a fan of just like fall in general.
Oh yeah.
Whether it's like, Halloween, the little like dark, spooky, cozy, I'm all over that.
Yeah.
But like, oh man, I just like, yeah, Halloween's a lot of fun. No question.
Do you get into costume?
Oh
Or
yeah,
did you?
like
Okay.
yeah, every year I do. Like last year, like
Nice.
I grew out my mustache. I'm trying to go for it again.
Oh,
But
okay.
like I grew out my mustache every so often. And last year I was Luigi. Um, so it was really cool. It was the only pair of overalls I own are because I was Luigi. I've never worn overalls before my entire life. I think the
Nice.
only time I've ever worn them is when I was dressing up as Luigi. But like I'll probably do like maybe Mario this year. We'll see.
Uh, since I have
Yeah,
the overalls.
yeah, exactly. Like might as well put them to good use.
That's so
But
funny.
yeah,
That
I love
reminds me
Halloween.
of my son too. It's all about the facial hair.
Oh
Or
yeah,
he'd grow out the mustache or a big beard, and then he would just work off of that.
yep.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, my mom hates when I grew out my mustache. Oh my, like seriously, whenever she sees that I'm starting to grow it out, she's like,
Yeah.
"No, Thomas, please don't." And then like when I'll like shave it, she's like, "Oh my gosh, my Thomas is back." Like, "Oh." I'm like, "Come on." Like let me like express myself.
I will always be here, Mom.
Oh yeah.
Don't you worry.
Uh,
Facial hair or not.
oh
Uh,
yeah.
well, my granddaughter is trying to choose between Elsa, Moana, all the Disney
Oh
princesses.
yeah,
So
of
we'll
course.
we'll
Big decisions,
see what
huge
happens.
decisions.
She's asking me what I'm going to wear for Halloween, and I said I have one cape and I wear it every year, honey. So
Oh, like honestly
that's
though,
me.
like my favorite thing about Halloween is I just love handing out candy to the little
Isn't
kids.
that fun?
I don't know, just seeing them, like asking them about their costumes, just seeing their
Yeah.
faces light up when they get. I always plan for it, but whenever I hand out candy to kids, like, usually I'm like, oh, only take one. But like, I'm always, hey, you can take a little extra, just that way they think they're getting away with a little extra, and like think like they're like getting a sweet deal out of it.
That's
Like I'm
right.
like, but like our neighborhood doesn't have like a whole lot of trick or treaters, but like the few
Okay.
trick or treaters we do get, I'm like, dude, like take a lot of candy. Like go for it,
Let
dude.
me
And they get
dump
so
the pail
happy.
in there a little bit.
Yeah, more or less. It's like, hey, you're the last trick or treater. Like, here you go. Like,
I'm
I'll
turning
dump
off
the.
the lights. It's like
Yeah,
you can have it.
exactly. Like, you can take the bowl if you want.
Nice. So I'm glad we can wrap this up on a little more fun topic,
Yeah.
but I do not want to take away from the very serious and challenging topic that we talked about today. And I thank you for sharing your perspective. It's a unique perspective, it's a unique situation, even though the word divorce makes everybody think of the same thing. It's not. And everyone has a way of processing that.
Hmm.
So thank you for talking about it and sharing your perspective on that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
My heart goes out to all of us that deal with divorce, and it's not an easy thing. And please let me know in the comments if you have dealt with that in your life, if you have any suggestions for those of us who have, or like Thomas, want to give advice to the kids. I think that's very much appreciated, and you could really help somebody. As I said before to you, Thomas, thank you for joining me, and your comic relief and impressions I tell you what,
Oh yeah, that's all from like living in North Carolina, my little southern accents. It's like,
make my
I,
day.
yeah, I can't leave that out of me. That is a part of who I am. I can't remove the southern from me.
Please don't. Please never do. I don't care
Oh
what
yeah.
anybody says. I love it. Your fiance is very lucky. Hattie,
Oh yeah.
welcome to the family. That's wonderful. I'm so excited for you guys. And thank you for your military service. I'm going to thank you in advance. It's important that we honor and respect every individual in there after they go in, when they go in, and while they're in. So thank you very much. And please take care of yourself on that.
Yeah. Thank you for your support, honestly.
It's awesome. Thank you for our listeners. Today on Family Dynamic Conversations podcast, we've touched on a few things, and I want to know how you feel about those. I will be talking in future episodes to my friend Inez Mihan at Nezi Sweets Brigadeiro. She is in Idaho, but she is originally from Brazil. And I worked with her at the Civic Light Opera of the South Bay Cities in the wardrobe department, and we've got some crazy, funny stories that we're going to tell you about. My friend Paul Frame, who I worked with at the REI in Manhattan Beach, is also a wonderful personality, fun to talk to, funny like you. And he is now a salesman for Go Hunt and a bow hunter. He is very well read. And when you do him a solid, he will give you the shirt off his back. So looking forward to that. And another friend, Paul Chapikian, who is an actor and is my 6 degrees 106 degrees from separation from Steven Spielberg. Let's put it that way. He also worked as an EMT. His company is Lupine Productions, and I will have him on because the coincidences in his life where that brought him to either save a life in certain situations or brought him into that situation where he needed to save a life is unbelievable. The amount of times it just follows him. So he's here on this earth for a reason, and many people have thanked him throughout his life. So that's just to name a few. Please tell me your unique story. I'd love to hear it. And as always, be grateful for every day. Keep moving forward, and please take care of yourself. So until then, I'll see you next time. Thank you, Thomas.
All right. Thank you.
Bye for now.
All right. Bye.